Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about Tropical Storm Fred that has recently developed and the updated track and forecasting it where it could go in the near future. Now before I get started, be sure to like the video and subscribe because the majority of you guys sadly do not do either of them, and they do help my channel grow and I really would appreciate it. Alright, so we're going to get started here with Tropical Storm Fred that formed last night at 11 p.m. I think, the 11 p.m. advisory put out by the National Hurricane Center. They officially named it a tropical storm. Now, right beforehand, it was a potential tropical cyclone, and it got up to 40-mile-an-hour winds, but it just wasn't organized enough. Then 11 p.m., they decided, okay, it's organized enough, we're going to make it a tropical storm, and there it was. So here's Tropical Storm Fred right now. Tropical storm force winds are currently being felt around La Romana and the southeastern part of the Dominican Republic. Tropical storm warnings are also out for the Dominican Republic. And tropical storm watches for places like north of Port-au-Prince in Haiti. So Cape Haitian over there and near the Turks and Caicos, and Cuba now as well, tropical storm watches, even parts of the Bahamas as well. I think Cuba has a better chance of seeing tropical storm conditions than the Bahamas because, as you can see, once it moves over Haiti and Dominican Republic, it's going to weaken into a tropical depression because of the mountainous region and the fact that it's land, period. And then maybe re-strengthen into a tropical storm and then moves north from there. So it has strengthened a little bit in the latest update. I was watching hurricane hunters fly in, I think it was the NOAA mission, and I saw they picked up some stronger winds, and indeed they found 45-mile-an-hour winds. Although in the aircraft data, I can't show it now because now that it updated, all the data sort of went away because they already flew through it. But they did pick up, I think, 50-mile-an-hour winds at the surface at one point, but they decided to make it 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds now as opposed to 40. Winds are gusting to 60. Pressure hasn't changed that much, 1,006 millibars. So it's forecast to go to a tropical depression. Let's go over the cone real quick. 35-mile-an-hour winds. This is by 8 p.m. This is 8 a.m. Then, as forecast, by 8 p.m. tomorrow on August 12th, it could be a tropical storm again. Notice, though, it gets pretty close to land. Not sure if it actually could graze Cuba. Let's zoom in. So it could actually go over some of the islands of Cuba. That might halt its strengthening a little bit. I mean, even if it doesn't actually go on shore of Cuba, even if it gets pretty close, the water can still be pretty shallow, so that could still weaken it. But then it goes back up to 45 once it passes through the Florida Straits, 45 miles an hour at 8 a.m. Then 60 as it goes over the Gulf of Mexico. This is August 15th at 8 a.m. And then 65 but keep in mind, though, by this point, 65, it's already on shore. So probably a 65 or 70 mile an hour landfall. So forecast a very strong tropical storm, almost a hurricane. And notice now, I mean, Jacksonville and Orlando and Miami are all in the cone. Pretty much everybody in Florida is in the cone except for like the immediate First Coast and Space Coast. Tampa's in the cone, Tallahassee, even Birmingham and Atlanta, Montgomery, Mobile, and Biloxi. So a lot of major cities and towns that are in the cone now. So you definitely do need to start preparing. Because a strong tropical storm is forecast at landfall. Arrival time, earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds. As I said in the last video, this is the time you need to be prepared by. And for places like Dominican Republic, you're pretty much getting hit right now, so hopefully you're done by now. Places like the Turks and Caicos by Thursday morning. Thursday night for places like, or actually I should say Friday morning for like northern Cuba, parts of northern Bahamas. For Miami, I would say by midday Friday or Friday morning, you need to be prepared by. Places like Tampa, be prepared by Saturday morning. Same goes for Orlando and Tallahassee, probably Sunday morning. And then Birmingham and Atlanta by Sunday later in the day, you should be prepared by. And of course, these times are going to change. But the most likely times, of course, are a little bit later. That's when tropical storm force winds are most likely to arrive. But earliest reasonable is what you need to be prepared for because it could come at any moment. Now, those are the tropical storm force speed probabilities. You can also see are also overlaid on this map. 20-30% chance, but of course, as the storm gets closer, expect those chances to start going up. Like, for example, Dominican Republic, the chances are right now are 70-80% because the storm is right on top of them. There's probably some purple in there somewhere, too, that says 90 to 100. I just can't see it. But definitely anywhere in the green. I mean, that's still to a 10% chance. Pretty much, but even though, see, this is why when you're in the cone, sometimes just outside of it can make a difference. Because notice, the east coast of Florida is not in the cone, right? And neither is southeast Georgia. But look at this. You still have upwards of a 10% chance to see tropical storm force winds. So again, it is outside the cone. Even just outside of New Orleans, you guys could even see some tropical storm force winds. Expect those chances to increase, however. So here's the aircraft recon, and of course, now that they're flying away, it's going to be a little bit more zoomed out. But there is one little yellow bar in there. If you look very closely, it was easier to see earlier. So at their flight level, they did pick up winds of 45 to 50 knots. But several spots, they found 40 to 45 knots. But of course, that is also at flight level. What's at the surface could be different. Mostly the surface winds are a little bit lower, just a little bit. It is low-level reconnaissance, so they don't fly too high. I think they fly at around 700 millibars, because when you look at the drop-zone data, it shows from about 700 millibars, which is about 9,000 or 10,000 feet. So that's probably what they fly, about 10,000 feet. As you can see, they're flying away now. But they did pick up 1,007 millibars of pressure inside the center. And even yesterday, remember the chart that I showed you? It showed maybe even lower than that. So pressure could even be lower than what they found. But you can see the low center is pretty much right in there. You can see it's kind of like a little hook. All right, so it's trying to get itself together. There's definitely a lot of convection. But notice how you see a lot of clouds going this way and a lot of clouds going this way. There is some shear going on to the north. I wouldn't say it's excessively strong, but there definitely is some shear, which is kind of limiting its development a little bit. So I'm actually surprised it got the opportunity to strengthen. But next update, I wouldn't expect any strengthening, which comes at 2 p.m. Because it'll probably be onshore by that point, because we still got another couple hours. So anticipate some weakening, temporary weakening. Looking at it, again, 40-mile-an-hour winds, 1,006 millibars of pressure. Radius of maximum wind goes about 40 nautical miles from the center. So it's probably about 45-ish miles from the center. And if we look at where the ocean water temperature is sitting in, probably is sitting around the mid-80s. Probably around 84. So as you can see here, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. But notice as it moves north through the Bahamas and Cuba, 86, 87, all right, and then maybe around 85 or 86 as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's got even warmer water ahead of it, all right. But that also might come at a price, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit later. But on the north shore of Cuba, we got 86. On the south shore of Cuba, we still got 89. I'm waiting for it to see if it'll hit 90 maybe in September. That'd be really cool. That's virtually like bathwater. Now, like I said, it comes at a price. Here's 95L. That is a discussion for another video. But here is Fred right here. And you can see there is a little bit of dry air. And it's trying to get into the storm a little bit. But thankfully, dry air is very low right now. And especially once it gets to the Bahamas and assuming it does go into the Eastern Gulf, really no dry air there either, or the East Coast. So dry air is very low right now. Now, when I said it comes at a price, I was sort of talking about the wind shear. Because as you can see, near Cuba and the Bahamas right now, wind shear is between 30 and 35-ish knots, which is a little high. From where it's sitting right now, shear has dropped 5 to 10 knots in this general region in the past 24 hours. Shear isn't too bad, it's sitting at around 20 knots or so. But as it continues to move north, that's why it doesn't really matter if it stays over water, if it goes right between Cuba and the Bahamas, or if it just grazes Cuba. Either way, it's going to go through some shear. So anticipate weakening. But then look at this. The Gulf of Mexico, pretty much wide open, no shear. And if it happens to go at the East Coast, which seems a little bit more unlikely at this time, but still possible, either way, there's no shear really there either. So might have to go through a little bit of shear, higher shear, and then we'll start to drop off. Now, let's look at some model intensity guidance. Starting from the last time I showed you this, models have pushed out a little bit. Because if you look at the update, even right now, it's still moving. If we look at the center right here, it's still moving in a west-northwest direction. It hasn't really made that westerly turn yet. So the models have brought it south a little bit as expected. So it might graze the north shores of Cuba and the eastern shores. But either way, still a lot of model agreement, and that's good. The timing, they don't necessarily agree on that much, but the track they do. And you can see, because as you can see, if you look closely, one model has it at this point in about 7 days, while another model has it out here in 4 days. All right, and same thing with the landfall. Some models have it there in a week, some have it there in 5 days. So it's the timing is a little off, but the tracking is pretty much on point. Most of the models agree, except for one outlier here, which is the CEN2. But they all bring it, 99% of them bring it in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And that's where we can see the real strengthening, because it's wide open. There's tons of oceanic heat. The Gulf Stream goes through this way. All right, so, and also low shear and low dry air, if not none. So that's something we're going to be watching as well. Looking at the Gfs model tracks, the black line is the mean, so the middle of all these, brings it through the eastern shore and then making maybe a right turn. We'll watch out for that. Some models do make it pretty strong. Some, the yellow and orange here, below 1,000 millibars, even below 990 for pressure, which is pretty low, but pressure anticipated to continue dropping once it hits the Gulf of Mexico or the East Coast. Don't really expect it to start dropping as it moves to the Bahamas and Cuba because it's probably going to stay the same, if not weaken. So keep that in mind as well. Geps model tracks. Now these ones, more so, I mean, a few of them bring it into the Gulf of Mexico. A good chunk of them do, but there are also a good chunk that bring it through the East Coast of the U.S., the East Coast of Florida, and a good amount of them bring it near the northern mid-Atlantic and the coastal Northeast. So this would be pretty similar to an ELSA track, with the exception that ELSA went, south before it hooked to the right. But this looks pretty similar to ELSA. And little spoiler alert, 95L, which will be talked about in another video, could actually take the similar track as this one and ELSA. So I'll watch out for that too. But notice a good chunk of models that bring it near like New Orleans or Biloxi or Mobile do have it pretty strong. Again, around 1,000 or even 990 millibars of pressure. So a strong storm could be possible. And looking at the intensity guidance here, again, anticipate the strengthening to start after about 60 or 72 hours. Once it makes it out of Cuba and the Bahamas and hits the Gulf, that's when strengthening is anticipated. Some models make it a strong tropical storm. Most do, maybe around 60, 70 mile an hour winds. Some do make it a Category 1 hurricane. So we'll definitely see the strength is certainly an uncertainty as well. I would say out of strength, and timing and the track, I think the track is what we have most down pat right now. I think strength and timing are still a little bit out there. Looking at the European track guidance, European ensembles. So the black line you see here, it says official. That's the National Hurricane Center's track. And then we have a bunch of European ensembles. A good amount bring it near, whether over Florida. I've seen models bring it over Florida, even some of the global models at one point, probably like right over the center of Florida. Some bring it over the Eastern Gulf. Some couple bring it in the Western Gulf. One even has it going offshore of the Carolinas. So definitely something we're going to have to watch. But a good chunk of the models do agree on a general location, and anyone on the Gulf Coast, even in Texas, Gulf Coast, South, East Coast, still need to be prepared for this storm as we stand right now. So looking at the HWRF model, let's start out with that one. And you can see this is by 2 p.m. this afternoon. Now they have it just about coming on shore. If the storm were to slow down, yes. But notice it's sitting under a high pressure in the higher elevation, and that could maybe keep the wind shear down a little bit for the meantime. Notice the low and mid-level center, if you look closely, is pretty well aligned. So it might sustain its strength, but notice it starts to lose its strength a little bit, right? We have the low center that's sitting right here, mid-level winds coming in like this, all right? And then we have the mid-level center out here, but notice what starts to happen, all right? So let's keep this going forward. Goes through the Cuba and the Bahamas, all right? And then, so as you can see right here, 1,014 millibars of pressure, still not that much strength. And the mid-level winds are cutting right across it. There's really no sign of a mid-level center either anymore, by the way. Any mid-level center is kind of like a hook, like a little half a low circulation, sort of like down here. But other than that, there's really no mid-level center. Then it passes south of Miami through the Keys. All right, this looks pretty similar to when we looked at it yesterday. So mild consistency is a good sign. But then look what happens. We start to see some darker greens, potentially some higher moisture around the northern part of the eye, near the eye wall, and even some, like, you can even see the banding features in the relative humidity. Pressure falls to 1,000. You can see lighter greens at the center, which means less moisture at the center, which means that would be somewhat of an eye trying to develop. Then it moves to the north, 991 millibars of pressure, and then you can clearly see that eye wall right there. But then we might see some dry air try and work in. We'll see if it manages to take hold of that. But still, making landfall with 990 millibars of pressure. Really not much change in this. This might even because when I showed you guys this model yesterday, there really wasn't much change. So keeping an eye on that. But look at the strong easterly band. We got the northeastern Iowa at landfall. All right, and then that's the timing for the HWRF and the strength. But we're going to look at the strength better here with the wind graph. So let's move it forward here, and you can see there is the low right there in the middle, and then passing south of Florida is when the strengthening is going to start. So you can see right here, 45 knots is about 50 miles an hour. So Key West, Miami, expect some impacts because this is only about 72 hours out. And then it moves to the north. All right, gains some strength. Might even reach hurricane status. The purple there represents hurricane status. 64.8 knots, 64 knots is hurricane status. So we'll be watching out for that. And then landfall calls for about 65-ish mile an hour winds. So we'll see if it can maintain hurricane strength before landfall. If it gets really strong, let's say it gets to like a major hurricane, it might have to go through eyewall restoration. We saw that with Florence, which is why we can do a Cat 2 and a 1 before landfall. And then still gets on shore. We still have about 46 knots of wind, which is about 50 plus miles an hour, so still very strong. And that's sustained winds, by the way, not gusts. And that's a landfall's forecast at about early Monday morning. So be prepared for Sunday, let's say. So always got to be prepared for the worst. So let's take a look at the GFS model now. All right, as you can see, the low is brought. So this is the 12Z run that is just coming in. So it might graze over Cuba, might be a little bit more ragged if it goes over Cuba. But notice, we still see a low pressure making its way on shore right on landfall here. And they have a landfall Tuesday morning instead of Monday morning. So a little disagreeing on the timing there. Let's go over to the Canadian model. All right. Again, it continues to move north through southern Florida. Then it might actually go over mainland Florida. This is 95L. No spoiler alerts. But I'm just kidding. But it might go right over Tampa. And that would, the strength, they still keep it pretty held together. But that could keep it weakened a little bit if it were to go right up the peninsula of Florida. It's been a while since we've seen that. Then goes to Alabama and Georgia. And then remnants go into the Ohio Valley in the northeast. Their landfall their landfall timing around the north shores of Florida near Apalachicola. They call for Sunday afternoon, probably because it's taking a shortcut to get there. The other two models had it going this way, but if it takes a shortcut, then it might get there sooner. And they anticipated landfall in Miami around early Saturday morning, very early Saturday. So be prepared down there in Miami for Friday and Saturday, Saturday and Sunday for the rest of the peninsula, Sunday into Monday for the southeast. I would say that's a good timing schedule for right now. European model. European model has its sort of kind of grazing St. Myers, maybe Naples, and Miami, but still a pretty well-defined system there, as you can see right there. And they call for a landfall around there Sunday night. And then going right up Georgia through South Carolina, and if it goes this way, the mountains might really mess with it. But also, like near Asheville, you guys can get a lot of rain from tropical systems because of your terrain. So even though it weakens the system, it's going to dump a lot more rain. And then the European brings it right up near Virginia. All right, now we're talking like late next week. But still, and then right offshore of the Delmarva, almost similar to Elsa. So we'll see if you guys are going to get it again. Then brings it offshore again. So definitely something to watch. That was an update on Fred. It just developed into a tropical storm. Be watching for some major impacts. So that is it. Thank you for watching this Tropical Storm Fred video. I am the Weather Dude signing off till next time, and video of Invest 95L coming as well. So see you guys over there. Catch you guys in the next video.